Summer heat rippled through the air, turning the road into a hazy wave as Margot Quade took off at a jog. The sun had barely risen above the trees, but the small town of Port Marie was under a heat advisory already. Her phone, clipped to her armband for running, showed a temperature of 80 degrees. It felt at least 10 degrees hotter on the dark pavement, and it would only get worse as the day wore on. Her time in the Middle East had recalibrated what she found unbearable weather-wise. Since then, she considered this temperature balmy. She slowed to a brisk walk as she crested a hill on the outskirts of town, the forlorn outline of the Baptiste home shimmering in the distance. A for sale sign was perched high and visible at the edge of the property. She didn't blame Conrad's ex-wife for selling the place after he died. The town was only just getting back to normal following the revelation that Conrad had abducted and killed 2 boys and turned a third into his protégé. She prided her hometown on being resilient. Her small community had endured more tragedy since her time overseas than anyone should face in a lifetime. The chapter of the audiobook on her phone ended, and she picked up the pace again, letting the downward momentum carry her toward the center of town. Just as the narrator started the next chapter, a loud noise, like a gunshot, drew Margot's attention. She pulled the headphones from her ears and stopped, listening for a repeat. None came. She tried to gauge the direction it had come from while she stood on the road. It didn't matter, because she picked up on the sound of breaking branches in the tree line to her right. She approached the edge of the road, waiting for whoever was about to emerge. The breaking of twigs and the crunch of underbrush grew louder, setting Margot's nerves on alert. Every muscle in her body coiled in anticipation, preparing her to jump into action. Suddenly, a woman burst through the foliage, eyes glassy, and bleeding profusely from her left shoulder. The wound was only a few inches from hitting her heart. "Help me!" the woman rasped before collapsing to the ground. Margot's training kicked in, and she bent over the prone figure, scooping her into a bridle carry before taking off at a run. A memory of her time overseas threatened to overtake Margot's focus, but she pushed it down. This woman needed her here, now, in the present. Margot did her best to keep pressure on the woman's wound by keeping the left side of her body pressed against her own chest. The woman's shallow breaths signaled she was clinging to life as they closed the distance to the hospital, located not far from the police and fire stations. Given the early hour, Margot didn't encounter anyone else on the road. This isn't the Middle East, she reminded herself. She kept moving forward, her attention laser-focused on the hospital. The woman's light frame jostled in Margot's grip. Why is she so frail? Who would shoot her? Margot's legs pumped a steady pace as she turned at the back of the fire station and skidded to a halt outside the hospital's emergency room entrance. She caught her breath and walked into the space. "I need some help here," she announced loudly. The charge nurse at the station stuck her head around the corner. The ER was quiet, not that Margot suspected it would ever be considered bustling, and this was probably the first person the nurse had seen all morning. "What's the matter?" the nurse asked, coming into full view. "I need a gurney. This woman's been shot," Margot said. Her words spurred the nurse to action. She slammed her fist onto a call button on the wall before going in search of a gurney. The woman in Margot's arms moaned. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. Her hair was matted to her head in thick tangles, and her skin was pale. Too pale for this time of year. Despite her frail appearance, she looked somehow familiar. Margot tried to place the woman's face, but came up empty. The nurse returned with an orderly and doctor in tow, and Margot eased her charge onto the gurney. The woman refused to relinquish her grip on Margot's wrist, though. "The doctors are going to take good care of you," Margot whispered, gently prying the woman's fingers off her skin.